Welcome to part 21 of building Uncle Dorkel. I had a little setback with the damn silicone. It's not outdated, but this bottom plate here was siliconed in, and when I took the clamps off, it just separated. Aggravated the hell out of me. So, without the receipt, I can't return it to Home Depot. The date code is good until, I don't know, at least another year. But I put another coat on and it seemed to be curing up. Let me show you what I did on this thing here. Okay, this is the silicone. I took and put a heavy dose of silicone in and clamped it back down again. This other one on the top side is contact cement. I really should have used contact, but I just had so much silicone on it that I didn't think it was going to stay. Well, anyways, you probably wonder what these screws are. These are the centering screws that keep it riding inside here. I painted this red, and not because I wanted it red, it's because I wanted the cardboard to have a smooth surface so that this surface and this surface can slide on each other without digging it up. Now, I put two screws in. I may put a third one in over here. This is the back. And I may cut a groove in this cardboard, which has got the press board on the bottom here, on the inside, for reinforcement. I may cut a groove here. This head's only going to go turn 180 degrees. It's going to go like this, stay forward, and then go left. So there'll be probably a slot in here. That'll keep it centered, and also I could probably keep it from pulling off the, coming off the torso. You don't really have to ever remove, like a lot of ventriloquist dummies, they remove the head. There's no real need to do this, simply because I put this on a stand in the shed when I want to work on it. And if I have to do any work on it, it can be done right here. So, including all this stuff here, because this is all screwed in if I ever have to work on this, but I shouldn't have to do anything like that. So, this is how she's going to go. We pick him up with his head in the hole, making sure that we get everything past here. And if you look, we got the two guide screws down. Now he sits back a little bit, but you can see why I didn't want to cut this anymore. Now this is going to be a lot of movement here. So when I put the padding on, I'm going to have to build up a cardboard, little slope cardboard, to keep the padding off of this so it doesn't interfere with the turning of this. So it's not turning like a ball bearing surface, and there's no way I could put a ball bearing surface on this. So I think it's not impossible to turn. It's just not turning as smooth as I'd like it to, but I didn't think it would turn easily. But with these guide pins here, it keeps it from moving too much, but I have to put a third screw in here so I don't get this movement, which isn't all that bad. Now I got him turned. You can see that little yellow pull string there for his mouth. He's turned, of course, a little bit, but there is no interference in that. I'm able to move that quite well. It's not interfering, and I'm able to move his eyes with no problem whatsoever. Design changes constantly. I decided to just put a regular screw in here, countersink it so it doesn't hit too much, sanded this a little bit, repainted it. That idea is going to really bind this thing up really bad. So what I'm going to do is rely on these two studs and putting a large washer, not necessarily this one, after this head is in the body, putting the washer down, putting a nut on it, and that'll keep it from falling out. it moves around in the hole. This hole is not perfectly round because I had to cut it with a saber saw. If I had a regular hole saw that size, I would have been able to do a better job. So using this as a way of marking it, of course when you cut with the saber saw it never comes out straight, and my eyesight, I can't see the blade good, so even with reading glasses on, so I'm always hitting off the mark. Story of my life. But anyways, we're going to just rely on these two here. What I might do is I might, if I still got some of that little 1/4-inch Teflon piping that I was going to use in the tongue area here with the air, so forth, to make the tongue stick out, we scrapped that idea because we're not going to do that. That's there's just no room in the mouth to do that. So I'll put a little piece here and a little piece there that'll give it a little surface to ride on, and I'll see how that works. If it works out, we'll put the washer on and we'll put the nut on and lock it in place once it's in there. So that's what we're going to do now, and we'll just let this paint dry. And at least with this bolt in here, it keeps everything together because the silicone is cured out here, but I can guarantee you it's not inside yet, even though it's over 24 hours. When you buy silicone, and I've had this happen occasionally, not too often, always check the date codes on the GE silicone, whether it be in a tube, a small tube, or whether it be in a cartridge. Make very sure, because sometimes they get a bad batch even though it's not expired, but nevertheless, always check it. And what you want to do, and what I'm going to be doing from now on, is open the tube and put a little sample on a piece of cardboard or something. Let it see if it cures. It's supposed to skin over in 15 minutes. This did not. This took about an hour. Right now it's okay, and I put more in here, but it's soft yet a little bit. In other words, inside is not cured. This may cure up okay, and with these screws in here, this will reinforce this so it doesn't come apart again, because there's going to be strain on this when it's moving, and I don't want these pieces to become separated. So when you buy silicone, there's a date up here, good until. I can't read that at all right now. I have to have a magnifying glass and in the bright sun. It's very faint. I hate these embossed letters, you know, the same color as the plastic it's embossed into. But every once in a while you'll get a bad batch, and I've been looking on the internet, and occasionally you do get a bad batch. I think this may be okay. It just takes more time, more than 24 hours to cure, which holds up the project. A little bit of change. We decided to not put the third bolt in, as I told you and showed you. I just put clamps on this because I didn't want this to, and I want to give this 48 hours to cure. It's pretty cured, I think, but I'm not taking no chances. But anyways, these are the two studs that are going to be going down here, riding like this. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut off a piece of this Teflon tubing, probably down to about the second nut down there. And I'm going to drop a washer when I get this into the headstock, into the neck hole, I should say. And put the washer on top of this nut here. Or I may take this right out and just let the washer sit on the Teflon tubing. It'll act as a bushing to ride on the inside here. Now, after putting a piece of Teflon here and here and on this one, if I find it's going to be too tight in the hole, I'll have to remove it and just, use it the way it is. So what I'm going to do is cut off two pieces. I have to see how far they're going in. So what I'm going to do is take these clamps off, put this into here, and use the nut as a ruler. So I turn this nut until I find out where the washer is going to be on the bottom here. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is stop the blood from rushing to Dorkel's head. We're going to put him up this way. It's about time you straighten me up. Okay, we're going to put him right in here like this. Now, let's see where the nuts are going to come down. We're going to bring the nuts up to just almost flush with the bottom of the neck hole. And these washers, one on each side, will prevent this from lifting out. Anytime I have to do any work, he can stay right on the body. He does not have to, his head does not have to come off. I have to do any work in here, I can do it right here because I'd be putting it in the shed and putting it on the stand anyway. So this way he'll turn. Now the first thing we're going to do, got to make sure. Okay, now we take this up and you can see now the nuts, the washer will sit right at that level. And there'll be a little up and down movement, which I want because when I move this, he'll have a little bit of side to side movement when I do this. So he doesn't look like he's stiff-necked like this. Like Ed Sullivan, you know? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the Teflon tubing. Alright, there's one. Not going to be perfect. There's two. Alright. Now, take off the nut. Put this down on the bolt. The bolts are long and they're going to get in the way of this with my finger. But I'll take my little old trusty bolt cutters and cut them off after I get what I want in here. Alright, we do that. And this will have to go on afterwards. But what I'm going to do now is put the nut on without the washer because I want to see how this rides against the side of here. I want to make sure if I have to shorten this or whatever. Now, it may not come off even though there's no washer. Okay, now we're going to put this back through. I'm only concerned with this one side right now because they're both going to be identical. So we'll go down into the hole. I think well, I'm going to put the other one in because we may have too much thickness here and we may have to eliminate that, but I did want some Teflon. It would be easier to move in this. If I was able to cut a perfectly round hole, if I had a proper hole saw and wasn't relying on the poor eyesight and trying to run this around with a saber saw, I could have got a much smoother here because the hole is not perfectly round. It's got some areas that have more play in them than others. Okay, so we're going to go and repeat this on this side. As you can look in here, I can see I got to cut back the Teflon a little bit because there's still too much play. I mean, I know I got a nut in there and that's going to be bringing this up closer, but I got to cut back about an 1/8 inch off of these Teflons, but especially this one. So that's what we're going to probably do. Yeah, let's see, an 1/8 inch. I'll cut a little less than that. We're going to have a little bit of movement like this, but you see, being that this is silicone in here, his head's still going to go a little bit like, you know, but that's okay as long as it doesn't break off. Now, down here, after I get this all taken care of, we're going to mount that bottom piece with the hook in it that I showed you earlier. We're going to drill 2 holes in here. We're going to screw it in like we did with this. And the reason for that is in case I have to get in here. And besides that, I haven't got any glue that would hold this stuff. I don't have the PVC glue. After I get that hook in there, then we're going to put a board down here, a particle board, press board, with the hook going up, and then the big rubber band goes in here, and that'll keep this lined up, and it also enables me to move the head a little bit. See, like that. Okay, I shortened this one. Now I have to do this up underneath, of course, naturally. Then I put this washer on. I don't need a nut down here because this will go right up against it. And then I put the nut down on this, and I do the same here. So these washers will prevent this thing from coming right out of the hole. It'll be loose enough that I can turn it, and that's probably about it. And I don't need the third bolt, so I just flushed it out. And it scrapes the top of this a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. So what I got to do now is I got to take and shorten this one. So we'll do that off camera. Lay Dorkel down on his nose here. We got to be very careful we don't break his nose. We're going to put his nose right down in there. This way I can work inside here. This was hard getting these little nuts on the thing because it's very, very touchy. Get them started. Hey, what do you know? That one started perfectly. Now, not macro. You can, yeah, we can get a camera view of this. Don't forget, Dorkel don't like being on his nose. He gets nosebleeds. And you get 112 years old, you're going to get nosebleeds for every little thing, you know. Okay. Now, we'll get the other washer in here. And then, once I get this where I want it to be, then I snip it off with the bolt cutter so they're not in the way of the pull cord. Okay, that went in perfectly. I thought I was going to have trouble getting the nuts started. I did have originally. Now, we don't do anything with this now until I see how this sets. So we're going to bring him up now. His head is still unstable, but then again, his whole mind is unstable. Now, if you look in the back, I'm going to tip him down here, and I'll turn his head. Now you see how that's riding? See how those washers are in there? Now I got to snug them up a little, but not to create a drag. See how that goes? That head isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to move. It's going to move a little, but that rubber band that's going to be real heavy, it might even use a spring in here, is going to keep this further stabilized. So he can turn left, he can turn right, he can turn his head completely around, but I wouldn't be able to manipulate the thing with my finger. So he doesn't need to have his head completely turning around. No point in that. Just for comedy effect maybe. Okay, so we're going to stop the video at this point, and I'll straighten this out and I'll come back on the video. Okay. Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little think about him as we got go, and it went right to my head. What I am doing, or trying to do, is there's a little movement on the back. Okay, so what I am doing is I can't really put a screw in there, is I'm going to be putting a bracket out of my junk box. I don't know if I'm going to use this one or not. Screw it into this PVC and take the pair of pliers and flatten some of this down. Slide it over this end so it'll act as a smooth surface to go underneath here. So this will be the third bolt, so to speak, to keep this thing level. It don't really have to be, but the head moves a little bit too much. Moves fine, but it moves a little too much. So I want to try to get a little stability here. So I'll probably work on that. We'll come back on the video when I'm done with that.